Hey guys, welcome back. Making a quick video here for you guys that are wanting to get into the saltwater game. If you've never had a tank, this is actually my first tank. If you're new, welcome. If you're watching, again, thank you, or a return watcher, I should say, thank you for continuing to support the channel. That said, for our new viewers, this video is intended to give you a sense of what you need at a very basic level to start up your tank. Okay, so to give you guys a synopsis, I'm 12 weeks into this saltwater setup, and this is where we are. I have no prior experience outside of, doing a little bit of research prior to setting up the tank. And then I've created this channel and essentially getting guidance from more experienced folks in the community. So thanks to everyone again for your continued contributions. But let's get into it and talk about what we need at a bare minimum to set up a tank, okay? Because a lot of us think, it can be very expensive to set up a tank. And, earlier on I had made a video that said it cost me around $1,200 to set everything up, inclusive of the stand and everything in between. But let's talk about like the minimum amount required to get it all going, right? So let's start with that. So, as a minimum, of course, you need a tank. And the question is, do you want to have an all-in-one tank like a Fluval 13.5 gallon, which is what I'm using, right? Or do you want to, or maybe you have a freshwater tank that you want to convert, right? So let's talk about what we actually need. So one, we need a tank. So for this tank on Amazon, it's roughly, I think, I paid 190 Canadian dollars plus tax. So let's say you can get the tank for about 200 bucks. It's all in one, okay? What that means is it has a pump in the back, which you see, it helps the water move around the tank, right? And you need that because you need oxygen in the water so that you can support life, right? This is why we have our coral, right? That's why we have our fish. But that said, the nice thing about the all-in-one is it has the light feature built in, right? And so this light supports easy coral or soft coral, right? So as you see, we can adjust to nighttime settings. Now, it's nothing fancy, right? I've been looking into other options that, you can add things so you can control your light. You can add all kinds of controllers to automate your system. But that said, in terms of an all-in-one and pulling it out of the box, what Fluval gives you, or some of these other companies like Nuvo would be another one, their tanks are either going to be peninsula shaped, which is the horizontal shaped, or they're going to be cube shaped. And so it really depends on what you want. With a small nano tank like this, I wanted a horizontal or peninsula tank so that the fish could swim horizontally, right? So that was my preference. Some of the cube ones are cool because they do have some depth to them and they might sit a little higher. So, I mean, this is a 13.5 gallon tank, as I said, roughly $200, okay? So that's what you need. The second thing you need to consider is, do you want to have sand? Do you want sand on the bottom? So you can pick up some cheap sand on Amazon or from your local fish store. A 10-pound bag of sand. Again, the bigger your tank is, the more sand you're going to need. But a 10-pounder worth of sand is roughly, anywhere from 15 to 20 US dollars. So you can either leave it bare bottom, right, guys? Bare bottom tank, easier to clean. So you don't need the sand, okay? Outside of that, you want to consider getting some live rock. But again, do you need a whole box of rock? I mean, there's a couple different ways to go about this. There's a lot of reefing communities on Facebook. You might be able to pick up a piece of rock or a few rocks for free or for a lower cost, or go to your local fish store and just buy a couple of pieces of rock, right? You don't need to spend $60 on a coral life rock, right? So really depends what you do. You can get kind of the manufactured rock. The fresh stuff is going to cost you more, right? So again, when you start out, if costs are, you're trying to manage those costs, think about, again, what is it that I really need, right? Do I really need a stand from Amazon for $100 or $200? You probably don't. With a tank this size, you can probably rest it on a sturdy piece of furniture, but you want to make sure that it's able to support, you know, at least 120, 130 pounds, because when we add water volume to the tank and we add everything in it, rock, etc., it can cause certain surfaces to sink. So if you're going to rest it on an existing piece of furniture, give that consideration. If not, Amazon does have a lot of options in terms of stands. The other place that I've heard that is good, some folks use something called a calyx furniture from IKEA. It actually looks like this. It's like very, very common. I actually have my TV on there, but at any rate, they make smaller ones, so they're like four to eight. But anyways, you only need about this much for your aquarium. As you see, my kid rests all his toys there. But that said, guys, we have to ask ourselves, what is it that we truly need, right? So if you want a stand, you can get a cheap metal stand on Amazon, or you can get one like this. This one cost me, I don't know, how much was it now? It was around 120 Canadian dollars, so maybe 90 US dollars or so. So you can get this stuff on sale. Another thing you want to do is sometimes your local fish store will have offers. They obviously want you to get in the hobby. So one of the cheapest things that they will sell you, they will have either branded tanks like the Fluval. So that's where I got mine. You can get them on Amazon. I do have my links pinned, so it makes it easy to find if you're looking to just order it online. As I said, initially I had ordered it on Amazon, and then I ended up picking it up at my fish store. But a lot of my accessories come from Amazon, right? So for example, as I said, is it a necessity to get a wave maker? Initially, I bought it, but I actually had it in the box. It wasn't until our community members told me that I should add additional flow in the tank that I put it in. So that wave maker is around 20 US dollars on Amazon, and I have it pinned. If you guys want to make it easy, it's there. This other fancy stuff like coral racks, like you can add that later, right? Bare minimum, we need a tank. It comes with the light, we're taken care of. It comes with biomedia, which you stick in the back chamber. So it already comes as a set when you buy the Fluval all-in-one. And it comes with carbon as well. And carbon, the little carbon bags, you don't really need them. What they do is they help your water appear more clear. To be honest, I haven't had any carbon in this tank. Some folks use carbon and they change it every 3 months, so it helps maintain cleaner water. It can be beneficial for your livestock. As I said, I've never really used it, even in my freshwater setups, so not a necessity. So from an all-in-one standpoint, again, you get everything you need for $200. You get the tank, which is what you need, right? So you don't have to have sand, but if you intend to, it's recommended you buy the sand. Right? You want to set up your structure, your aquascape, before you put the water in. Now, initially, what I was reading, and I had made a video on aquascape, and I'll pin it as well if you guys are interested. Basically, what it says is, when you are starting your tank, you don't want to be constantly moving around your rock work, because there's bacteria, beneficial bacteria that are forming in the rocks and the sand, and you don't want to really interrupt that process, right? As I said, we're 12 weeks in, so we're good. So again, if I was starting again from scratch, as I said, the tank priority, can't really get around that. If you have an existing setup, some of these tanks, for example, like the Fluval Flex series, their lights can actually support LPS coral. So you wouldn't have to buy anything. But if you have a tank sitting around at home, then you can invest in a cheaper saltwater light that can support, let's say, easy coral, if that's what you want to start with. So there's, I would say the range in light pricing is anywhere from $30 to, let's say, $60. And of course, the more settings and the more complex corals that they can support, the lights can start to increase in price, right? So like a very popular light that I've been recommended is the AI blade for this Fluval tank, because it actually fits on the very top, right? And so the nice thing about the all-in-ones, they make it really easy, right? They make it really easy to pull this stuff out, work on your tank. you know, like thread your wires. They make it super simple. So if I could recommend anything, I would honestly recommend, if you're brand new like me, you don't want to be looking for lights, just do the all-in-one. Okay, the only other thing you need is you need to be able to heat your water. And in the back of my tank, I have a Haiger, and I've shown this to you guys previously. I have actually two of these, one for my bucket, and I have this night crew heater, okay? And so, yeah, I mean, the Fluval also makes an excellent one, and I have it pinned in the comments. I have that in my other freshwater setup. And again, it's mini, it fits in the back chamber, right? The whole point of the all-in-ones is that the equipment all fits in the back chamber, and then the rest of it allows you to enjoy your tank. Now, you know, in terms of the coral, if you're starting out, do you really need it? Not initially. As I said, when I started my tank, I started with a few invertebrates, invertebrae, like snails and the hermit crabs. I was actually talking with my son today, and I said, where are all our crabs going? And, you know, even this snail kind of starting to really blend in with the rock. And part of it is, as you see, they're ending up near the entrances of the pistol shrimp, right? So you can kind of see that one there in the bottom left corner. You might even be able to see the pistol kind of poking out. But, you know, I had spare shells, and they all seem to be moving around. Sometimes your hermits will switch shells. We see a hermit in there. So as I said, I mean, you know, hermit crabs, they're fairly low cost, you know, anywhere from $2 to $5. The red legs in my case were around $7 USD. You know, you can start with some inverts, right? You know, a clownfish up here, I would say in the US it's probably around $20 USD. You guys can let me know. In Canada, I pay around $30 for the farmed clownfish. And, you know, most of my livestock are in the 30 to 35 Canadian dollar range, so it's likely around 25 US dollars, right? That's what my goby cost me. That's what the cleaner shrimp cost me. But as I said, guys, when you're starting and you want to keep your costs low, all in one, consider bare bottom or sand, and just maybe start with some fish, right? And that's where, you know, you can start to look at things like, you know, what a Fowler tank is, and what that, it's an acronym that stands for fish only, essentially a fish only tank and rock, right? I mean, you can look up the acronym, guys. I don't know it off the top of my head, and to be honest, I learned it from one of our subscribers when they said, oh, you can run a Fowler tank with only tap water. So that was also a very important point, because before jumping into the hobby, I was like, oh man, I'm going to need all this stuff to set up the tank. It's going to be so much work. Guys, you can get this stuff slowly. Get this stuff slowly over time. You know, get your stand, get the all-in-one aquarium, you know, get your sand, get your rock work, put your water in, you know, put your biomedia in the back chamber, you know, slowly start to acquire these pieces like the heater, like the Haiger. You know, in some cases, like my friend Brandon, he picked up I think a 65-gallon tank from somebody that was exiting the hobby after a year, and it had the nicest wave makers. You know, it had AI prime lighting. Like, you know, he got a very good deal. So sometimes you can encounter that, and sometimes, guys, people even give away their livestock. So, you know, maybe they end up with too many fish in the tank, or they're moving. So when you join these Facebook communities, again, sometimes you see that. Like I saw somebody down the street from me giving away a beautiful pair of clownfish, you know, long fin clownfish. So other things I've seen are people putting like wanted, you know, like I want a Duncan coral, and someone will be like, hey, actually I have a bunch of extras, or I, you know, have a bunch of extra anemones because they keep reproducing. And, you know, what I'm starting to notice, at least in my community here in Western Canada, a lot of folks they must have huge colonies or these tanks that they've been running, or maybe they just harvest or grow these coral because they're available. I haven't gone that route, and our subscribers point to that. I do have a video on like whether it's safe to buy stuff online, and I think there's pros and cons. Obviously price is a pro, but there's certain things you want to do if you're doing that, which is like dipping your coral, quarantining your fish prior to introducing them to your main system. Like, quite frankly, I'm too new to be shopping around, so I just stick to the local fish store, guys. That's what I'm doing. But outside of that, guys, just think about it, right? You just need the tank, you need a heater. If it's an all-in-one, it comes with everything else. You don't even really need the wave maker, right? Unless you start to put in things like torches, right? And the way my friend framed it was, just think about how much current is in the ocean. A lot. So it wasn't until one of our subscribers, initially I was concerned that the sand would be blowing because I got finer sand, and maybe it did a little bit, but then you realize, oh, you can redirect the flow, like point it upwards or point it towards a rock. Like, there's ways to go about it, and I think that's what's great about the community. You continue to learn from each other, right? So as I said, guys, I don't think you have to ask yourself, is it a necessity or a basic requirement, right? And so if we stick to the basics, I think any of us can really get into salt water, right? It really comes down to, again, the belief, or really the desire to actually want to get into the hobby and spend the time to learn about it and take care of things. It's really not that difficult, right? As I said, right now I'm still currently running the system without an RODI water system. It's tap water, and I've spoken to that, and a lot of you guys are saying to me, hey, you got to switch over because eventually it'll lead to a crash. But again, like, Fowler systems run purely on tap water. It really depends as well on your geography. Not all water qualities are going to be the same because, again, we all live in different places. We have different piping systems. The water comes from different places, how it's actually treated. So it's not, the TDS readings on our waters are definitely going to differ. So I'm not telling you guys to run a tap water system. It's something that I need to get away from. And I know that, and that's why I don't really have, like, really sophisticated coral just yet. I'm still learning, and that's a part of it, right, guys? I'm bringing you guys with me, especially those of you that are new. I love hearing when you guys go out and get something new from the fish store, or you're introducing them. I had a comment there the other day that said, oh man, you're so patient. And I really feel like I'm impatient. Like, I've been looking at stony corals and debating getting something like that. As we see our torch continues to grow. But yeah, like, stony corals would be amazing. I want an anemone, but I'm starting to, the more and more I look into that, I want it for the purpose of the clownfish hosting the anemone, but I worry, right? Like, I'm only 12 weeks in. Minimum recommendation in terms of a time frame for anemones is approximately 6 months before the tank is mature enough. So, for anyone that's new, again, I wouldn't rush into things, but if you're new to the hobby and you've been sitting on the fence for a while, I think, like anything in life, we just have to, you either know somebody that's doing it and they can help you along, or you jump in and, look at different resources to be able to help you. And that's sort of how we're structuring the channel. But at any rate, guys, I'd like to thank everybody for watching and for your continued support. And again, guys, if you're new, if you don't have an existing system, consider an all-in-one aquarium. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful day.